Good morning. My name is Kim Anderson, and I'm with Rooted Planning Group. Rooted Planning Group is a fee-only financial planning firm. Fee-only means that we don't earn our compensation through commissions of any kind. We don't sell life insurance, we don't sell annuities, we don't sell stocks, bonds, mutual funds, etc. You can learn more about what being a fee-only advisor means by going to feeonlynetwork.com and scrolling to the bottom of the first page. So why am I giving this presentation this morning? Because our clients are stressed about the topic. People are making mistakes, and those mistakes include paying more than what they need to, using the wrong assets at the wrong time, relying on poor calculators. And when clients are not fully informed about the possible college financing approaches, it ultimately makes our job of helping clients save, invest, plan for retirement, and other issues much, much harder. So let me ask you two questions. How many of you are stressed about your children getting into good colleges and universities? How many of you are worried about how you're going to pay for the schools that your children get into? I bet a lot of you nodded your head for at least one of those questions, if not both. It's understandable that you are feeling nervous. College costs have outstripped inflation for decades. The cost of college continues to climb even as the income of many parents remains stagnant. The news on the college front, however, isn't all bad. It is possible to lower your stress level and cut the cost of college if you become a savvy college shopper, and I want to help you do that. In this presentation, I am going to be sharing with you 6 ways that can help you cut the cost of college. These 6 tips can make a significant difference in how much you will pay for a bachelor's degree. The first cost-cutting idea is understanding the realities of college pricing. At the start, you need to understand what college pricing realities are. Colleges are priced like airline tickets. Everybody pays a different price. But at least on airlines, you get a more comfortable ride if you pay more. Paying a lot more could get you a first-class seat. Paying a little more could get you an aisle seat near the front or a seat on the exit row with better legroom. But if you pay a higher price for college, you won't get any extra perks for that. Your child won't have smaller classes or be entitled to more face time with professors just because you paid more for a bachelor's degree than the parents of other students. There isn't an academic advantage to paying more, which is why it's even more important to cut your costs. Here's a reality that will probably surprise you. Most colleges are always on sale. That is a fact. Price discounts are quite common among state universities as well as private institutions. Schools give discounts through grants and scholarships. Grants are typically given to students for need-based aid, and schools typically award scholarships regardless of a family's income. One thing you should take away from this slide is this. It's clearly not just A students who get scholarships and grants. Just look at the high percentages of students getting price breaks. Nearly everyone who attends a private college receives some type of price cut from his or her school. For years now, the tuition discount has been creeping up. The percentage of students who receive grants and scholarships at private schools is actually at a historic high. And the private tuition figure here comes from the National Association of College and University Business Officers annual tuition discounting study, which was released in 2018. The discount figure shown here also comes from the same report from the National Association of College and University Business Officers. The average tuition discount at private colleges and universities is also at a historic level. This discount is 56%. You might naturally be wondering why schools are giving out so much money. Here's the reason. For most schools, it's a buyer's market. This might seem strange because all the media attention is focused on the most elite universities that reject nearly all applicants. In fact, the schools at the top of the ranking heap compete to see who can reject the most teenagers. Most schools, however, don't enjoy this kind of advantage. They have to work hard to fill their freshman slots. And to do that, they have to offer financial enticements to get students to come to their schools. Here's a closer look at what colleges are up against during the admission season. The survey I cite is an annual one conducted by Gallup and Inside Higher Ed, which is a highly respected trade publication that covers the higher education industry. Here's cost-cutting idea number 2. A critical step when seeking to make college more affordable is to answer this question: will I qualify for financial aid? If money is an issue, you need to answer this important question because it will ideally direct you to the types of schools that your family should be looking at. Parents often assume that there must be some kind of income cutoff figure that will disqualify them for financial aid. Could it be 100,000 or 150 or higher? The process would be simpler if there was a set number, but there is no income or asset cutoff that disqualifies a family for financial aid. The financial aid formulas are too complex to generate a yes or no answer on this question based on an income figure. However, you can form a good idea about whether you will qualify if you obtain your expected family contribution. An expected family contribution is a dollar figure that represents what a financial aid formula believes a household should be able to pay for 1 year of a child's college education. There are 2 main EFC formulas. The federal formula is tied to the free application for federal student aid. This is the federal aid application that students must complete to qualify for federal and state aid, as well as aid at the vast majority of colleges. Institutional formula is tied to the CSS profile. This formula is used by roughly 200 mostly private schools to determine who will get their in-house money. To obtain your EFC, use the EFC calculator on the College Board's website. Go to thecollegeboard.org and type in EFC calculator. Before using the calculator, you should gather your latest tax return and your non-retirement investment account statements. It's best to get a ballpark idea of what your EFC will be in a child's freshman year of high school or even earlier. Obtaining a preliminary EFC will give parents a rough idea of what kind of financial obligations they will face. Families will usually have to pay more for college than their EFC indicates that they can afford, because most schools do not meet 100% of a school's demonstrated financial need. Consequently, it's important to identify the most generous schools that would consider your child an attractive candidate. To give you an idea of what EFCs are possible, here's an example from a middle-class family with an average income and low savings. I'm only using non-retirement money in my example because the formulas don't consider retirement money in their calculations. In this example, the family's EFC for both formulas are quite similar. The formulas say this family can afford to pay around $2,500 for college. This family has more assets, home equity, and considerably more income. Like the previous example, there are 4 in the household and 1 going to college. The EFC ranges from $31,072 to $35,185. There would be some elite schools that would provide this family with need-based aid, but with the vast majority of schools, the family would be looking for institutions that provide merit scholarships to higher income students. There is no cap on a family's EFC, so some very wealthy parents will have EFCs that exceed the cost of an expensive private university. It's important to understand that a family's federal EFC drops by 50% when there are 2 or more children in college. The institutional EFC drops by about 40% when 2 are in college. So a family that might not qualify for financial aid with 1 child may be eligible with 2 or more in college. This shows what happens to EFCs of the family in the previous slides that had an adjusted gross income of $150,000. With a significantly reduced EFC, the family's chances for need-based aid would rise significantly. You can determine if a student would be eligible for need-based aid by subtracting the EFC from a school's price tag. In this example, the family's EFC exceeds the price of the state school, so the student wouldn't qualify for need-based aid. Instead, the student would hope for a merit scholarship if the school awards them. In this scenario, the student would be eligible for up to $23,000 in need-based aid from the private college because the price of this institution is far more expensive and exceeds the family's EFC. As a practical matter, a family with an EFC this high would typically be looking for schools that provide generous merit scholarships. It would primarily be elite schools with excellent financial aid that would give this family need-based aid. In summing up, families with small EFC should look for colleges that provide generous need-based financial aid, as well as their own state schools. Families with large EFCs should look for private and state schools that give good merit aid to many students. So the third cost-cutting idea is to use the net price calculator. One of the most infuriating aspects of the college admission process is this. Traditionally, families couldn't know what any college was going to cost until their child received his or her financial aid or merit award package. Even worse, they might not have gotten the offer until the spring, which would give them little time to select a school by the deposit deadline, which is often May 1st. Applying to schools, however, doesn't have to be a financial crapshoot if you use net price calculators before your child applies to any college. A net price calculator is supposed to provide you with a personalized estimate of what a particular school will really cost. When using a calculator, some families will discover that the cost of a $55,000 university will be $20,000 or $10,000 or even lower. For other families, the cost will really be $55,000. The net price represents what a student will have to pay after scholarships and grants from the federal and state governments and the school itself are subtracted. Let's say, for example, that a college costs $50,000 and the student will receive $30,000 award from the school and a state grant of $5,000. The net price for this student would be $15,000. The net price equals the true price of the college because it only considers free money and disregards loans when calculating the cost of a school. Federal law requires schools to post a net price calculator for freshmen on their websites. Some schools also provide a calculator for transfer students. It can be hard finding a net price calculator on some school websites. An easy way to locate one is to Google the name of the school and net price calculator. If you want to avoid budget-busting schools, it's critical to know what the actual price of the particular schools will be before your child falls in love with them. In fact, turning to net price calculators could ultimately save you tens of thousands of dollars by focusing your efforts on schools that will be more generous to your family. Your family should turn to these calculators to get a handle on what sort of applicants capture the best awards at an institution. What kind of grade point average or test scores does it take for a student to win a greater award from a specific school? With this tool, families can manipulate the figures to see whether it would be worth it for their child, for instance, to take the SAT or ACT again. Would a higher test score boost a child's potential package? Would a slightly higher GPA matter? With so much money at stake, it's worth taking the time to use these calculators strategically. You need to understand that not all calculators are good ones. The weakest calculators rely on the federal calculator template. Using a calculator that uses the federal template could take less than a minute to complete. The questions are minimal, which leads to dubious cost estimates. Bad calculators will rely on old cost data. Some net price calculators are still using 2015, 2016 cost figures, so check how old the cost figures are. Another problem with the weak federal calculator is that it only asks for an income range. A good calculator will require figures off your latest income tax return. These federal calculators are only meant to provide personalized cost estimates to families seeking need-based aid. And even then, the need-based aid answers are simply averages. The fourth cost-cutting idea, understanding the main sources of college money. The biggest source of money is the federal government, followed by colleges and then state government and private scholarships. The federal government is the source of the largest percentage of college grants. The vast majority of the federal money is awarded through the Pell Grant program. The maximum Pell Grant award is currently $6,095. Students who are eligible for this full grant have adjusted gross family incomes of $25,000 or less. The larger the family income and the smaller the size of the household, the lower the potential Pell award. According to federal statistics, 92% of Pell Grant recipients have a household adjusted gross income of under $50,000. Families who are shut out of federal grants will qualify for federal college loans since there are no income limits. Without filing the FAFSA, parents and the student would not have access to federal student and parent loans. All states have aid programs, but they vary in what they offer. Most state grants go to students who require financial assistance. Some states, however, are dispensing most or all of their aid based on such factors as grade point averages and standardized test scores. Most of the states that award the majority of their aid by merit are located in the South, and these programs often benefit more affluent students. You can find links to the aid programs that are available in the 50 states by visiting the website of the National Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators. Families need to be aware that some state financial aid programs have early deadlines to submit the FAFSA. If you don't file the FAFSA by the state deadline, you will be ineligible for aid. Private scholarships are outside awards that are offered by foundations, charities, companies, and civic groups. Parents often don't realize that private scholarships represent the smallest source of college money. The competition for nationally known private scholarships is fierce. In a recent year, for instance, the Coca-Cola Scholars received 112,000 applications for 250 awards. This makes Coca-Cola Scholars about 25 times as selective as Stanford. Your children will face better odds if they focus on capturing local scholarships. These are the scholarships that turn up via high school counselors, libraries, parent workplaces, or in local papers. They aren't as easy to find, so not as many students will be applying. In fact, national scholarship sites like FastWeb, scholarships.com, and the College Board search engine usually don't have these local contests in their database. Students may also have better luck looking at scholarships that require essays, since plenty of teenagers don't want to hassle with this requirement. Students who win private scholarships are often surprised to discover that their awards end up reducing their financial aid package. Since students have to report all outside scholarships to the financial aid office, many schools see this as an opportunity to save some money and reduce the amount of the money they awarded the student. In cases where the amount of the scholarship would push the total financial aid package over the cost of attendance for the school, the federal government requires schools to adjust the financial aid award. You can't receive more money than it would cost to go to the school. If a teen wins a private scholarship, the college could shrink his or her financial aid package by the amount of the award. So if a child wins a $3,000 scholarship, the college could cut the aid package by $3,000. In the best case scenario, the school will reduce the loan portion of the package by the amount of the outside scholarship, but it can shrink the grant or reduce both the grant and the loan portion. For each school maintains its own policy on how it applies an outside scholarship to a student's financial aid package. You'll have to check with each school for its policy regarding outside scholarships. Ironically, the scholarship practice will not affect the students in a position to afford college. Affluent students who receive merit scholarships from their schools don't have to worry about outside scholarships shrinking their awards. Higher income students who don't qualify for financial aid can earn any number of outside scholarships, and it won't jeopardize their institutional merit scholarships. One way to increase scholarship chances is to use CapX.com's merit scholarship search engine that assists you in looking for institutional merit scholarships. Unlike strictly private scholarship search engines, CapX.com provides hits to talent and merit scholarships that individual schools offer. Schools will routinely provide any merit scholarship to their accepted students automatically. All students have to do is fill out the admission application and qualify. CapX does include these scholarships, but the site will also alert you to institutional awards that can require a separate application to win. School awards these scholarships for such talents as leadership, volunteerism, artistic and music ability, entrepreneurship, writing, and much more. Some schools also award separate scholarships for particular majors such as philosophy, physics, or nursing. If you've been thinking that your child won't qualify for federal or state grants and private scholarships are usually not a major source of money, you may be feeling discouraged, but don't be. For affluent families, the most likely source of money will be from the colleges themselves. The vast majority of schools provide merit money to affluent students. These schools also provide need-based aid. While there are nearly 2,800 four-year colleges and universities in the United States, there are less than 6 dozen that claim that they meet 100% of the demonstrated financial need of all or most of their freshmen. The schools that offer the most generous need-based aid are among the most highly ranked U.S. News and World Report. These schools tend to have large endowments, and they also attract a lot of students who pay full price, so they can afford to offer generous packages to those that need help. Students requiring financial assistance who get into schools like those on the slide have essentially won an educational lottery. Of course, these schools are among the hardest to get into. On the other hand, the schools on this slide don't give merit aid to students who don't qualify for financial need. They don't have to because there are plenty of high-income students whose parents will pay full price. It's more usual for these elite schools to provide modest scholarships to wealthy students and severely limit those they award. The schools most likely to provide discounts to students are colleges and master-level universities. Colleges often only educate undergraduates and have few, if any, graduate programs. Master's level universities have few PhD programs and aren't research-intense institutions. Professor research and educating graduate students are the #1 and #2 priorities of research universities. Undergraduates represent the third priority at these schools. The institutions that are least likely to provide merit awards are research university. That's because they are so popular that they don't need to offer discounts to many of their students. High-income students who attend elite research universities are more likely to pay full price or close to it. Athletic scholarships are the last main source of college money. Whether your child will qualify for scholarship money will depend on many factors. The reality is that athletic scholarships aren't nearly as plentiful or as lucrative as many families assume. About 2% of high school seniors win sports scholarships every year at NCAA institutions. Athletic scholarships are typically not as generous as regular financial aid or merit scholarships that student athletes can earn. An excellent online resource to check out athletic scholarship statistics is scholarshipstats.com. You can look at national scholarship figures as well as those for sports at individual schools. The best chance for a full ride athletic scholarship is to compete in one of Division I's head count sports. An athlete who competes in one of the 6 head count sports will either capture a full ride or nothing. Here are the 6 sports and the maximum number of scholarships per school. For men's sports, it's football and basketball. And for women's sports, it's basketball, tennis, volleyball, and gymnastics. Now we're going to talk about the 5th cost-cutting idea. Research the generosity of colleges. One way to get a quick look at whether a school will provide need-based aid or merit aid awards is to head to the College Board's website. Type in the name of a school on the home page and then click on its Paying link. You'll be brought to a page with the school's price tag. Then click on the Financial Aid by Numbers link. That's where you'll see some interesting statistics. I'm going to illustrate what you can find in a school's financial aid by the numbers section by using Yale University. On this slide, you can see up at the top that the school meets 100% of financial need, and it also meets the full needs of 100% of its undergraduates. This is excellent. In fact, This is as good as it gets for someone who needs help with college costs. Yale's average need-based award is $54,568, which is high. This slide also shows you that Yale doesn't give merit scholarships. The average non-need-based aid category is blank. That means a wealthy family with a high EFC will pay full price for Yale. This slide illustrates a school, which is NYU, that typically provides poor financial aid and small merit awards. On average, this popular school only meets 56% of need, which is poor. The average need-based award is $33,324, which is small considering the school's cost of attendance is over $73,000. Just 10% of students get their full financial need met. The average merit award is $7,039, which is quite small considering NYU's price tag. Students needing a lot of financial aid would likely need to borrow heavily to attend this school, and affluent students are likely to pay full price or close to it at NYU. In this example, you will see that the typical financial aid package isn't nearly as good as Yale's, but it does provide affluent students with a much higher merit award than NYU's. Like many private colleges, Hendrix College in Arkansas has to provide better merit awards to attract students to a school that doesn't enjoy a national reputation. Its average merit scholarship is $27,460. So we're at our sixth cost-cutting idea, and that is check four-year graduation rates. Parents assume that their children will graduate in 4 years, but this usually doesn't happen. According to federal statistics, the four-year grad rate for private colleges and universities is 53% and 33% for state schools. You can find four-year grad rates at College Completion, which is a microsite of the Chronicle of Higher Education. You can also find the grad rates broken down by race and ethnicity for each school. To find the site, just Google College Completion. Here is an example of a school with an excellent graduation rate. Here's an example of a university that has an average grad rate for a state institution. It's always important to check the four-year grad rates. There can be significant differences among the same types of school, so always check. Here's an opportunity to obtain your EFC. We talked about this earlier. Using the calculator can be tricky, and some parents just guess when filling out some of the questions. This can result in faulty figures that can make the results worthless. I can help you obtain an accurate EFC verdict. And here's a snapshot of what your EFC results will look like when I help you obtain these critical figures. Here's an opportunity to obtain your net prices. Ultimately, what matters when you're searching for schools is not whether the sticker price, what the sticker price is, or what a school's average scholarships and grants are, but what your family will end up paying. As I mentioned earlier, net price calculators, if they are good ones, can be invaluable to generate what your tab will be. I would like to assist you in generating your net price using these calculators. Like the EFC calculator, these tools can be tricky, but I can show you how to use them. If you're interested, please go to www.rootedpg.com, click on the Contact Us tab at the top, and fill out the form. One of our fee-only financial planners will be in contact with you. If you have any questions about the EFC calculator, the net price calculator, or anything else as it pertains to college, getting in, college student loans, et cetera, please reach out to us at Rooted Planning Group at rootedpg.com, and we will be more than happy to help you. Thank you for sticking with me about the last 30 minutes, and have a great day.